you said.
I was used to model.
Really?
And then he fucking giggled.
I'm not denying. I'm not like in
but you're
shock
like,
or
really?
disbelief. I'm just
No,
like really, not like
No,
really.
dude, come on.
You know, there's variations of really.
I fucking love you. I believe everything
y'all
that
seen
you're
my
saying
porn
to me
video,
right
you'll be
now.
like,
Well,
you
yeah,
should've
but I've been in a
started
couple of them.
I wasn't.
I was performing. I was the bellboy, remember?
Anyways, yes. So I used to do modeling. And
For like what, JCPenney? Were you in a catalog?
Welcome back to episode 27 of Two Addicts and a Moron. What? It's 28? Jesus. Wow.
Well, you know, we push them out so
We-
much. It's
yeah,
like you
like,
kind
I
of
don't-
lose counts. Like when you have so many kids, it's like, I don't know. Like, where's Georgie? Where's Jeffrey? Like,
And as I've stated before, I have a lot of kids, so I've lost count.
Yeah.
And I don't know where all but 2 of them are. But
hey, they're gonna find you real soon if we keep growing like this. You might have a little bit more than you thought.
No, my name is not Joey. My name is Ralph, and I am Ralph the idiot. All right? I'm not Joey the moron. Just letting everybody know. All right. Anyway, episode 28. We are back, like I said, like a vertebrae. And
Come on.
we have
Come on.
Miss Jenna in the house. What is
Yeah.
going on, Jenna? Hey.
let's go.
Thank you for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
And where did you come from?
California. I live in Agora Hills, California. It's like just north of LA.
Yeah, holy shit.
Yeah.
And why are you here?
For multiple different reasons. I came out for some work purposes, and then also my dear friend lives out here in Austin, and so I extended my trip so I could spend some time with her. And when I had talked to Jacob, and he said, "Let me know the next time you're in Austin." So also to be with you guys.
Oh, okay. Nice. So I would prefer you to say because I was coming on Two Addicts and a Moron. All the other bullshit.
But today we're gonna call it Two Addicts and a Moron and an Angel.
Hey. All right, let's go. So,
And also on this trip, you found a new best friend as well.
I did gain a new best
What's
friend.
his name? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Jay Klein.
we're connecting people here.
Really,
all over.
yeah. This is
all over
and
the
that's the
world.
beautiful thing. We're all connected, and we're all just like little connectors, dude.
All right, that was weird, man. Thank you for making that super awkward. All right, so introductions. Over here in the couch on this side of it, Joey the moron, and
To the left, Jay Klein.
To the right, Mike Stuboy, Addict Meth, GHB.
and the guest of honor.
And I'm Jenna Foster.
All
Yeah.
right, yay!
Is her mic good?
All right,
Okay.
and now we're gonna move on to our second tradition. Get us centered here, broski.
Yes. Like we do with every episode, we get centered, we get present, and we think about the ones that are out there struggling and suffering, and with a moment of silence. So let us get present, bow our heads, close our eyes. Think about the addict that's still out there suffering, that's struggling, the friends and family members that are struggling with them, and the addict that unfortunately cannot be with us here at this very moment. Moment of silence, please. Thank you.
All right. So now that Jenna has come all the way from California only to visit us at Two Addicts and a Moron, it's the only reason why you're here.
Right.
We're so happy and honored to have you. But tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been sober? Let's start with that.
I have been sober for 10 years.
Holy
My sobriety
shit.
date is May 26, 2014.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Way
Thank
up,
you.
bitch.
Thank you.
Yeah, love it.
Whole decade.
Love
Whole
it.
decade. It was kind of a big one.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
And what was your DOC?
That's always hard for me to answer because it like changed a lot throughout my journey.
Yeah.
But towards the end, before I got sober, I was using a lot of meth. And then I stopped using meth and realized like, okay, this minor meth phase is probably not a good situation, but I'm not a drug addict and I'm definitely not an alcoholic. And then for the next 4 months, I couldn't stop drinking and using benzos. Yeah.
It's pretty interesting because it seems like a lot of the guests that we have come on there, most of them have that, that are in a long time. It's like, it sort of switches up quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so how did yours start? How was your journey started?
Well, so I feel like, everyone has a different story, and for me, I actually didn't take my first drink or get high until I was 18 years old.
Wow.
And a lot of that, not a lot of it, all of it was that I grew up in an alcoholic addict home, and like I solely did not want to drink or use out of fear because of the experiences I endured as a child and a teenager. I was really angry at drugs. I was really angry at alcohol. And I was also in like massive fear of what that does to an individual, to family, to loved ones. And so I was like the girl in high school who was like at all the parties, but I was always the DD,
Okay.
Until I wasn't. Yeah, until I wasn't. And so I didn't take my first drink till I was 18. I remember exactly the time I took a drink. I was sitting in a Honda Civic that had like pink underglow. Do you guys remember that?
yeah.
When cars would have underglow.
Oh yeah, for
I
sure.
was thinking about doing one soon.
And we were like sitting in the car outside of a house party, and there was like 3 friends with me, and I just decided like, yeah, I think I can do this now. Like I'm 18. I feel stronger in like what's going on, when the reality is I was just like ignoring stuff. And I drank Jack and Coke for the first time.
Yeah, there's pterodactyls in here.
We're sponsored by them,
yeah,
actually.
we're sponsored.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're good.
They're good. They love you.
Yeah, so I drank Jack and Coke for the first time, and like for me, like I to this day like remember exactly what I felt like. I felt like a warm blanket came over me, and like everything that I had inside my chest, which I like now recognize as things like anxiety, just completely disappeared. And I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just felt like chilled out completely. And I continued drinking from there. I didn't even like smoke weed until a few years later. I actually was telling you this the other day. The first time I smoked weed was also at a house party. And it was like out of like a 6-foot roar bong.
Yeah.
And I was like so drunk that they were like, come on, Jenna, we're going to get you to get high. And I was like, no, I can't do that. But then the more drunk I got, I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I remember like standing on top of like the island in the kitchen so that I could hit this 6-foot roar. And then I just was like black. I don't remember anything else from the rest of the night. And, like I said, I was 18. So like I graduated high school shortly after that. I also, the end of high school, I was not living at home. I was renting a room, which is kind of different. Like I was a senior in high school, and the second semester I was renting a room somewhere. There was like stuff going on at home. My dad was married to this woman at the time, and there was issues going on between them. And I had come home from being a camp counselor for a week, and all of my belongings were like packed in the living room. And I was like, what's going on here? And I called my dad, and he was like, oh, I thought I was going to be home before you. And he's like, I'll be right there. And he's like, look, we got in a fight, and she moved into your room, and then she came like roaring into the bed or the house and was like, well, you're 18. You can figure it out.
Wow.
Oh no.
And I looked at my dad, and he was like, let's go talk about this. And I said, no, I just went outside. I called some of my friends' parents, and then I had a couple coaches from high school. I played sports. I was like a big high school jock. They were like big mentors to me. I really feel like people like that raised me. And they were like, listen, I know a spot where, you can rent this room. It was someone's father. He was an older gentleman, and he previously had like a housekeeper living with him, and she moved out, and he was like, you can live there through the end of high school. And they kind of knew about some of the background stuff going on in my home. And so that felt safe. So I spent my second half of my senior year, like just renting a room somewhere. And with that being said, I had already started drinking. And so like I had no supervision. I had no one to answer to. And so like that just took off. Like I honestly don't really know how I graduated high school, because like that second half of the year, like I barely even went to school because I was 18. I could like sign myself out. Like,
Right.
I didn't have to answer to anyone.
Going to school with vodka in the water bottles.
Fuck yeah.
Or that was me at least. But
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, and I just didn't go to school, and I just partied a lot through the end of it. And then shortly after that, when school ended, halfway through the summer, I moved to San Diego to play water polo in college. And I played for a couple months, went to a few classes until the coach told me that, hey, if you're going to be on the team, you have to go to class. And I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work out for me.
Wow.
Got my priorities to look after here.
Yeah. So that was like, like the beginning. It was really just drinking, smoking pot, and then when I couldn't hang in college and I moved back up to like my hometown and moved into a family friend's house. They had like a pool house in the back that I had known from growing up. They were like old neighbors of ours. And so they let me live with them. And I just started working. And at the time I felt like it was like manageable. Like I really thought I was just, and I think for a while I was like just a teenager, early 20s, like drinking like anyone else would. Right. Like that's what I thought I was doing for a while. But I definitely I took it far, Like I said, like I like to take things to the edge.
Yeah.
Push the envelope a little bit.
Of course, yeah.
So I have something you said interesting. So you remembered vividly the first drink that you had, but you said when you had that drink and the warm blanket feeling, you recognized at that point that you had been dealing with anxiety.
Oh yeah.
Is that like?
Oh yeah.
It wasn't until that point that it clicked when you had the drink, or?
Oh no, I'm saying no. Like
away.
now, what I mean by that is that like now, after a lot of work and a lot of healing, and a lot of like recognition and understanding of like what anxiety is or what depression is.
Right.
I can now recognize that those feelings that I had in my chest or the noise in my head constantly was things like anxiety, where when I was at that age, I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
I just walked around with that and lived with that.
Right.
yeah.
I didn't think everyone had that. Also, I definitely knew that it was like different, but I didn't want to talk about it either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think back then, I don't think many people talked about it. Like, I was always told like, well, you have ADHD or you have something like that, but nobody ever talked about depression or anxiety or anything like that. They do now with kids more. Like my daughter's 9 and she has anxiety.
Yeah.
And I think everybody has some sort of anxiety, but we're recognizing how to deal with it at an early age, where back then we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. It was just
Totally
like,
correct.
I'm going to drink and it's going to make me feel a little better.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to smoke a little weed and it's going to make me feel a little better, bit better.
Yeah.
But we didn't, I never knew that I was depressed when I was doing meth. I was like, I'm just, it just makes me feel better. Like, but now when I look back, like what you said, I understand, wow, I was depressed. I was very lonely.
Right.
And I didn't really care about life.
Right.
I just wanted to escape.
And I think also like once you get like, at least for me in my experience, like getting really further into active addiction, I was like, I'm depressed. I'm really I'm a sad boy.
Yeah.
Put on the Lil Peep, put on the Juice World. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to do my thing. And I'm just going to say, I'm so fucking sad.
Yeah. And revel in it.
I'm going to revel in it.
For me.
Yeah.
But then it's like, I don't know. It's hard to say if I was really depressed or not. Was it the drugs making me depressed?
Yeah.
Was it my messed up environment situation that I had put myself in making me depressed? Was there a little bit of depression as well, just chemically? Probably. But I definitely furthered that depression. I definitely accelerated that depression in my experience. And for me, also like that the blanket analogy, like I said that on
The warm, fuzzy blanket.
I was like, man, give me a little heroin. It's like a warm, fuzzy blanket because like it's that comfort for once the thoughts. That was my big thing. I couldn't stop thinking. I couldn't shut my mind off. I always was worrying or in fear about something. And I would just wrap me up in that little blanket and the world is okay and I feel innocent
It's
again.
a little more quiet.
You said it perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know for me too, like I grew up in a chaotic home and there was definitely like some traumatic experiences that happened. And so I know too, and again, like this is just my story. Like I'm well aware that not all addicts or alcoholics like have trauma or come from a broken home, but this is just my experience. And But where I was at in that family system and that family dynamic is that I was like, I was the one that was okay, right? So there was 4 of us, my mom, dad, and my brother. And my mother is an addict and alcoholic. My brother had a lot of like high energy behavioral problems. And I was the one that like kind of just got by and like did well in school. I did well in sports. And I was a little more quiet as a child. Big shock, I know. I was also like kind of like nurtured like through this family system. I was like nurtured into an environment of like becoming the fixer, becoming the peacemaker, becoming the healer, because there was so much chaos going on. And so what that did for me is it like, it put me in a position to constantly like subconsciously too, like stuff my own stuff down,
Right.
because like I had to take care of my mom. I had to protect my brother, you know? And so I was, anything that came up for me, it was, my narrative then was that like, this is not as bad, so I don't need to talk about it or even really acknowledge it. And like, again, now after a lot of work, what I know now, especially like working professionally in the industry that I do, I see a lot of that as like disassociation, right? With like having no idea that I was doing that,
Right.
you know? But there are studies that talk about too, like people with PTSD and stuff, you know, like disassociation becomes a form of protection, you know? And so like as a child, when you're going through trauma, it may serve as a protection. And then what happened for me is as I moved into my adult years is that it was burdening me because all that stuff was stuffed down and I had never addressed it.
Never dealt with it.
Never dealt with it. And so the more I started to drink, the more drugs that I was introduced to, all it did was like create this more instability and like also crack me open a little bit, right? Because you get drunk, you get high, and like you're not stuffing as much. Things start to kind of come out a little bit. Then you come down and you're like, did I talk about that last night? Right. And then all of a sudden this stuff, like you get to a point where you cannot keep it down, right? Like it's always going to catch up with you.
Sure.
Always going to catch up with
So that first drink, and I'm not sure if like I missed it, and if I did, excuse me and forgive me. But so I understand the comfort, but you didn't. What actually drew you to actually ingesting that first drink? Was it like, all right, I'm gonna try this now, or is it like, okay, I want to seek something else to
so
find
I
comfort?
was in that period where I was like in high school and like living on my own.
Right.
And things were super chaotic, but yet at the same time, like I felt some kind of peace of like not being at home, dealing with drama and dealing with chaos.
Right.
And I don't know. I maybe it was that I like didn't have to worry about going home and someone noticing.
Sure.
Maybe it was that I was in so much pain that I was like, let's try this. You know, I can't really pinpoint it.
Okay.
Yeah, you didn't have to be a protector or anything anymore at home.
Exactly.
So it's
Yeah.
like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Well,
it
I
was
mean,
just
it
me.
could have just been simple too. It was there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it just happened to be there for you.
Right.
Right.
Just
And
I mean, and it was there for me a lot. Like,
Yeah.
and I just was like, no, thank you. But yeah, there was just a day I decided, like, yeah, I'm going to do this.
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
So how did it progress after the 6-foot bong rip? And
I've never seen a 6 foot long.
I mean, it's kind of tight. Right?
yeah, that's pretty impressive. Yeah. I mean,
I had a 2 and a 3 footer. I've never had a 6 footer.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Not that I
remember
condone it.
was,
I bet that was wild.
It was absolutely wild.
Yeah.
How did it progress? I mean, like over years, it progressed, right? So
Just with weed still, or
no, with all kinds of things. So I was in my early 20s and I started to like experiment a little bit more with like cocaine, Molly, acid. I love music. I would go to a lot of shows. I was living in Venice and Santa Monica with some girlfriends, and we went to a lot of different shows, and there was a lot of things like Molly around and cocaine around, and the group of people I was around had that available, and I was just ready to try that, I also at that point had also been prescribed Xanax because I did have these little spurts of periods of like, I should probably like talk to a therapist. Maybe I should see a psychiatrist, and that therapist would suggest for me to see a psychiatrist. And, at first I took things like Xanax as prescribed, but then again, even that for me was like not even a warm blanket. It was like a warm, like duvet, right?
Yeah.
Like it was like, oh, you thought you just needed a blanket? Like, let me give you like the most comfortable
heated blanket.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. We're gonna plug this in and turn it
Yeah,
up, right?
yeah.
And so then it was like, then I would start to take more than prescribed and definitely take them before drinking, which was like a whole nother experience,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so I just was really in this place of like, I didn't think about consequences. I didn't think about like what this might do. I had kind of lost any sight of that. And I was just looking to have a good time. And like you talked about, like I wanted to quiet my mind. I had a lot of intrusive thoughts, and a lot of those intrusive thoughts were really painful. They were memories and things that, again, like I did not talk about, you know, and like some of it was like 10, 15 years ago of trauma that like was just continuing to boil and boil and boil. And I just wanted to silence it, you know?
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, doing some Molly and going to see Pretty Lights,
Yeah.
you know, was like a pretty, like at the time, like euphoric experience.
Oh, yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, this is life.
Right.
This is life. Like I live in Venice Beach in California, and I'm just in absolute euphoria, you know?
Right.
And like I had a good job. I was good at my job. You know, I managed my drinking and using for a while, you know? And so like I was definitely like a functioning addict, a functioning alcoholic for a while, right?
Yeah.
For years. You know, and again, it was like going to Coachella and like doing acid for the first time, watching Radiohead, and
Yeah.
like truly the stars were melting for me. Like again, that was euphoric, you
Yeah.
know? And so I really felt that I was just like any other 23-year-old, and like just doing these things. What started to happen is like when I would come home, right? Like after those experiences, and then I would start to come down.
Yeah.
And that's when it was like, I need some more Xanax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to have a drink. Right. And it like, so I started like replacing that coming down with other drugs.
Yeah.
with never
Right.
coming down.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't
Just
come all the way
balancing it
down. I
out.
was like,
Right.
I can't go there. I don't want to live in my head.
Because then those voices start coming back. And
Absolutely.
All that bullshit.
Yeah, and trauma is like,
Absolutely.
I mean, you said you were like, not every addict has trauma,
Right.
but I think that they do. It's just, or at least from what we talk about, but trauma to a person is trauma, right? There's varying levels of it, but it's
Absolutely.
always like your trauma might have been perceived as worse than somebody who lived in a good home, but
Right.
just happened to lose a grandfather like Garrett. You know, Garrett, he lived in a great home, great family, parents loved him, and he lost his grandfather. That was traumatic to him.
Right.
But it's never the level, and I don't think people should judge
I
the
agree.
trauma that people go through. Like,
Like-
you just lost your grandpa, and now you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so it's always just a feeling,
Right.
and that's the same for everyone, I believe. You know, like the way it makes you feel. So
Yeah.
that's interesting that you put it that way. That you're going to these high of highs, Radiohead, Karma Police is playing,
Right.
stars are melting,
Yeah.
and then you don't. Then you got to deal with the
A life.
Yeah.
Oh,
When I come
life.
down, right. Like the life is happening,
yeah.
you know, and
The reality.
yeah. And you know, it's funny, like bringing that up. I always talk about that, like life is lifey, right?
Yeah.
And like something that I realize now is that like through getting clean, it's not that life gets better. It's that I got better
Right.
to navigate life.
Right.
Because life is life now, just as it was then. I just have tools today.
Yeah, it's
Back then
happening.
I had no tools. And you know, like I look at, you know, my childhood and my situation, and I realized that like, you know, eventually I ended up being with just my dad, and he did the best he could with what he had.
Right.
Right. But there are certain tools that like he didn't have to provide for me as like a 12, 13-year-old, 15-year-old female daughter. Right. And there was most of that period, like I was again, like his healer. I was more of his friend, his support system. And I just didn't have any kind of parental figure to be that warm blanket.
Or the
Yeah.
tools.
Right. And I had no tools.
Yeah, yeah, zero
Because
tools.
I was stuffing everything down because I was always in the position to be the fixer.
Right.
I was the one to support you. I was the one to try to put everything together. And even that, like some of that came out of like fear of like, well, what if I don't fix this? What's going to happen? Right. It also came out of like, it came out of a way of like, if I fix this, maybe I'll get acknowledged. Right. I struggled a lot with like my mom's drinking and my mom's addiction. And I thought if I was the one to try to help her, maybe she'd put it down.
Right.
You know, and for so long, everything I did, whether it was like being the fixer in my home, getting good grades, being like this jock athlete in high school, the vice president of my class, like I was that girl.
Yeah.
But all of those actions, like my motive was to like be recognized.
Yeah.
Because I was just seeking and longing to be loved. We were talking about this, right? And it's not, you know, like that's all, everything I did was to try to like feel some kind of love, some kind of support, because I was in so much pain of feeling like my mom couldn't do that.
Yeah.
You know, I was in so much pain.
Yeah. And on the flip, I just want to, on the flip side, like me, so I had so much love. Like my mom, so I was raised by a single mom for the most part, and then she met my stepdad, but you know how stepdads and stepkids are, it can be a slight disconnect. But my mom did such a good job. Like Lily, she did such a great job that when my real dad died, I almost didn't care. Cause like, I just wanted I don't want to go see my dad. I want to be with my mom. And it got to a point where it's like, I don't want that. Cause it feels like it's default, you know, like, of course you're my mom. You have to love me. I already know that's expected love. I want love from people that aren't supposed to love me, because that means more to me, you know, like in a weird way.
Well, I actually relate to that though. Like it turned into that for me.
Right.
Right. Once I kind of like grieved my relationship with my mother at a really young age. Right. Like I think I was 13 when, because when I was 12, at this point, my parents had split up. Things were just absolutely chaotic. And we would have visits with her. And then at one point, we had to have like a court-assigned supervisor to have our visits. And then it got to the point where I just didn't want to go. And, you know, part of that was it was stuff with her. There was also like different people she would bring around. She had times of trying to get clean. But then typically what would happen is she would like go to some meetings and meet other men who weren't really serious about getting clean. And then she'd bring those men home. I was 13 years old. And there was like an incident that happened, you know, while she had some men in the home. And I was calling out her name and she couldn't help me because she was passed out because she was loaded.
Oh, man.
And that was one of those things that I held on to for like 15 years, right?
Yeah.
And I never told a soul until I was 26 years old. And that was just one of those things. And but what I did tell is I told my dad, like, I don't want to go there anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And I was 13 years old. And he's like, well, at that age, like you can decide that. So he had me like write a letter and he submitted it to the court and I didn't have to go there anymore.
But I can only imagine. I can't imagine, but I'm trying to picture this because you were the fixer over there too with your dad and you felt that responsibility. Man, it's like that's a whole lot
it's a lot.
That's a whole lot for any human
Right.
to have to deal with, no matter what age you are, but as
I was young.
a teenager.
And my
that's
dad
fucking
was
wild.
my dad was going through this like gnarly depression and anger. He had tried so hard to help my mom. He tried so hard, like endless amounts of like he would put her in treatment. You know, there were times that as kids, there's this one hotel, it's in Calabasas in California, that every time I drive by to this day, it like brings up memories because there were like certain nights where my dad would just put my brother and I in the car and take us to a hotel to be away from the chaos at home. You know,
Wow.
He did everything he could. And I mean, he gave up his career. My dad was a musician. So like the early years of my life, my dad was on tour a lot. And we actually had like nannies that lived with us or like even au pairs from other countries, right? And it just got to the point where, you know, they called him and said like, I I can't manage this. Like, this is what's going on with your wife. Like, you need to come home. And, you know, he gave up his career to try to save it wasn't even about saving his marriage. It was about saving her life.
Yeah.
And so I know today, like, I have so much empathy for him of like, especially being like a parent now.
Yeah.
Right? And like, I've also gone through a divorce.
Yeah.
And so I have so much empathy for my dad, as I do actually for my mother today, which I didn't for a long time, of like how much that was on him, you know, to be trying to save his wife and then all of a sudden becoming a single dad with 2 kids and then have to manage like the depression, the anger, everything, and like giving up his career. Like, that's a lot. But, you know, those first couple of years when I from like 13 to 15, it was kind of dark because he was really sad and he was really depressed. And, you know, my brother and I had each other, and we just did the best we could.
Man, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's wild to me, like, you know, when you're growing up as a kid and you have no empathy for your parents, you know, because you're just, and I grew up in a good household, you know, but still they would punish me or do some shit to me or, you know, whatever, because I'm me. And then you have kids of your own. And it's wild how that Cats in the Cradle song is fucking real. Like it just all kind of circles back around. So that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And I have a lot of empathy for your dad too, from the standpoint that, you know, he's a musician and that was his job. But when you're a musician, that's also an outlet. That's something that you have to go do that
Take your mind off.
but yeah, blows the steam out of the pipes or whatever, you know, and to feel like he had to stop doing that. That's
Right.
That's pretty gnarly in and of itself.
Right.
Just right there.
And I didn't understand that when I was a kid, really. Right. I had like little moments that I could be understanding, but more than anything, I was focused on like wanting to cheer him up. Right.
Yeah.
But again, I was like 13 years old.
Right.
You know, like I wasn't equipped to deal with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so ways I did that too was like, again, like trying to cheer him up, even if it was through like, I'm going to like get really good at this sport. And like, he's going to be so proud of me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, I'm glad that at that time they were healthy outlets for me.
Yeah.
Right. Like, but again, like through doing a lot of work, I was able to now understand that like some of those motives, like were not pure or intentional. Like they weren't
for you.
No, they weren't for me. The only thing that it was for me was I was trying to gain something, and it was like attention, you know? And again, that doesn't mean that it was wrong, right? That's just how I was operating.
Right.
I run into that problem with my daughter now because I put her in a lot of sports. And I want to make sure that she does it because she wants to, not because she wants to make dad happy. Because I love, there's being sober and being a dad is 1,000 times better than the dad that I was. And to get to enjoy those dad moments, you know, just like being a mom, you get to enjoy those moments. There's no greater high than I could ever have. But I have to make sure that she's doing it for her rather than doing it to make dad happy. Right. So I always tell her, look, if this isn't for you, we don't have to, like, she wants to play softball now because I play softball. Make sure that you want to play for you.
Sober softball?
Yes.
Yeah.
Make sure that you want to do it for you rather than doing it to make dad happy.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And something you said whenever you were a kid, like being the fixer and taking care of. My daughter, she wants to come on the podcast so bad. She can't. But I said, Caitlin, what would you say on the podcast? And she's like, well, Dad, I would talk about all the times that you used to get sick and I would take care of you. Like when I had to make you cereal and dude, it fucking broke my heart because I didn't remember that I put her through that. And then I remember her mom used to text me and say, how come Caitlin had to take care of you for the weekend? Like, you're the dad. Why didn't you take care of her? And I'd be like, well, because I had COVID or I had sick. And it was never that. I was dope sick.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I couldn't believe that she remembered that. And those were the things that I put a 6-year-old and 5-year-old through. And so, yeah, I can definitely, you know.
I think that's kind of most kids, every kid, you know, like they're looking to make their mom and dad proud.
Yeah.
You know, I did it, and I know my son does it, and I really have to. He plays football and baseball in high school, and like I had to learn or reprogram myself to like, you know, I was real hard on him when he was little playing baseball, and I had to reprogram myself to start focusing on the things that he did right, because he would. I think it was the I Am Livingston podcast with Sean.
I Am Redemption.
Sean. I'm sorry, yeah, I Am Redemption. But Sean Livingston, he had a guy on that he said his son came off the football field, and like he was like, the first thing he said to him was, "Are you proud of me?" And it was like the my perception means so much to this kid, right? Like it means everything to him. Like that's all he wanted to know, you know? So I had to learn that too, was like, I had to stop picking them apart so much and being so X's and O's and be like, no, you did good. Like this is what you did really well. Like, and kind of flip it the other way.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think it also is, I think like with everything, I think it all comes down to balance too. Cause when I spoke about my mom giving me so much love, but honestly, if we're being honest, like my mom was overcompensating because my mom came from a broken home. She's been on her own since she was 14, had a child at 16, alcoholic at 18, you know, got sober at 29, you know, like, and so like, that was like, it was such like a beacon of like, I'm so like, of what you know, it was like an admirable thing of what a woman was for me. It set the tone, right? But she worked so hard to give me a life that she never had. And her intentions were so pure. But if I'm being honest, and it's not her fault, I used that as a kid as well. For like when I was in trouble, make me feel better. How can we make me feel better? Let's take you to Toys R Us and go on a shopping spree. And then years later, and I'm not blaming my mom for this, because this is me.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, my mom did the best she could, and I appreciate it, and I'm so grateful for her. But like, I ended up so associating that you get rewards to do good, rewards make you feel better, stuff makes you feel good, change how you feel. I need $300 for my birthday. If I don't get $300 for my birthday, then I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like.
You know, it's interesting you said like you used that later, right?
Yeah.
I always talk about that, like these things that we have been talking about, right? Like childhood trauma, my circumstances, you know, my mom wasn't around. She was a drug addict. My dad was not super present because he was going through stuff. I utilized my life circumstances and like as ammunition for my drinking.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so I weaponized my life circumstances at the world.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it was very much like this state of victimhood, right? Regardless if it's justified or not, right? But being a victim to like justify my drinking, justify my using. You know, I remember saying things like, if you lived my life, you would do this too.
You don't know what I've been
Like,
through.
that, right? Like, and feeling so powerful in that, you know?
Yeah.
You don't know
And
me.
really believing.
Exactly.
You don't know me.
Yeah, back
and
up.
believing
Yeah.
it too.
Yeah.
Like really
Because
saying it
believing
so
that.
much, like, no, like
Yeah.
I believe that,
Right.
you know, I deserve this,
Right.
you know?
It's through doing this podcast and listening to people like you. I'm a normie, right? Like I can have a drink and be okay.
Right.
But I've started drinking a lot less. And I think it was because I start to now look at a drink like, why am I having this drink? Like, am I trying to cover something up right now? Did I have a hard, like, what am I trying to do? What am I trying to accomplish?
Like, what are my
But yeah, what is my
intentions?
intention with this?
Yeah.
And it's wild that's something I never thought would happen from doing this. But even though I'm not an addict, I think my life circumstances also sometimes would be an excuse for me to have a drink.
Right.
If I'm just being honest with myself and thinking back on it, you know, that's just is what it is.
Right.
So
I want to commend you, Joey, so much. Like the evolution of Joey the Moron.
yeah, dude.
From episode 1, you become an ally.
bro.
And your interview skills, I tell him all the time, you're the male Barbara Walters.
Yeah.
In the flesh. This is Barbara right here. In the spirit. R.I.P.
Much prettier.
I do look better than Barbara Walters. She looked fucking rough, dude. In the last
She
couple
doesn't even live
years.
here anymore.
That dead lady looks better now than she did when she was. I'm sorry, that was bad. I didn't mean to say that, Barbara.
Dear
Wawa,
Lord.
Barbara Wawa.
That out. But for real, like you've been an ally, dude.
Yeah, look,
Showing up to ALR Fest, and now you're, like just.
yeah. I mean, I think I told this to you guys before, but it was, I get invited to a lot of these things, and I don't go sometimes, and it's a me thing. It's not a you thing, but it's like, I don't want people to think that like I have this like addict fetish or something. Like I'm trying to hang out with just addicts all the time, and like, you know what I mean? I am not something like, I just don't want like, oh yeah, I'm including myself. Like I want to be part of your.
What most of us have learned is
what?
that like all those things you're thinking about, I don't want people to think.
Yeah.
Right? Like none of us are actually thinking about it.
Yeah.
We're thinking about ourselves.
Yeah, I know that. So that's why I just said it's me.
Yeah.
It's totally me.
And like he said, you're an ally.
Yeah.
We love that.
Yeah.
We love allies.
Honestly, my whole goal before I even met these guys, right? My whole goal was I want to take this beyond the rooms, beyond just the recovery community, because I think sometimes we can get so caught up and stuck in this recovery bubble. And I want to bridge the gap.
Right.
You want to know how you break down walls and stigma? This is a public health issue.
Right.
This is a worldly issue. This is a human condition issue.
Right.
So why should we just keep this confined to this? Like, no, we got to take this to the masses.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like that's how you break barriers and break walls, and that's what we've done. And
Yeah.
and perfect example right here.
Never thought that I would have a psychic kind of change through this. I thought I was just gonna be
That's
like,
incredible.
Look at him dropping lines.
but
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
it was gonna be. I was gonna be the dickhead in the middle, like
Wait,
just like,
still are.
hey, why do you do drugs? Like I just thought I was gonna be that guy, saying dumb shit, and I do,
Yeah.
but it's just weird. Anyway, back to you. I'm sorry about that.
Something
So,
you said. I'm sorry. Go.
I wanted, you said at this point you had job,
Yeah.
it was functioning, manageable
Yeah.
addiction, so when did it go off?
When did it change?
Yeah. When did it go off the rails?
No, that's good to ask. So it went off the rails when, I ran into someone that I had grown up with, hadn't seen him in a long time. He was a heroin addict. And part of what, when we connected, it was like, I need help. I know you've been through this stuff. And for me, what happened in my mind is like, oh yeah, I can fix you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm a fixer.
Straight.
Yeah. It's what
And
I can do.
a man.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't a man. We were like 23. He
Right.
was for sure a little boy. But like, one, I'm getting attention. I'm getting attention. Like, and you need my help.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Something you crave
So
for
then
a
I got
while.
into a relationship and started dating this active heroin addict, which was great because then we didn't have to look at how much Xanax I was using, how much I was drinking, or
Yeah.
any of my shit. And that progressed to like me moving in with him at his mom's house in his bedroom that was like in the living room,
Yeah.
So I went from like having my own apartment and, all these things to like somehow now it was a good idea to live with him in the living room at his mom's house.
Fuck.
So, codependency is real, especially when you've lived a lot of your life with issues of like neglect and abandonment, right? And now I'm like, we are one.
Right.
And so everything became about that. Everything became about helping him. And that was extremely toxic. That whole dynamic was extremely toxic. Like now looking back on it, I'm like, I would never be attracted to this person, right? But it was solely that like, I also think that, like, have you heard the term like water seeks its own level,
Yeah.
right? And so I think it was this moment of like, well, this person needs me and I'm not well, but we don't have to look at me not being well. So like, this was good.
Perfect.
It co-signed what was going on for me, right? and like filled something in me that I thought I needed, which was like attention, my insecurities, all these different things. That became extremely toxic. There's so much that went on there that's like we don't need to get into. And then one night we got in a really big fight, and I decided like I was just done, and I got my bottle of Klonopin. It was now Klonopin, and I had this feeling of like, oh, you're going to keep using, even though I had caught him lying to me. So he was using again when I thought he was just on Suboxone. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to show you. And essentially I downed the entire bottle of that I had left of the Klonopin, and there was 32 in there.
Oof.
Yeah. Next thing I know, I wake up in a hospital bed. Like, I still to this day, I don't have any consciousness of what happened in between those times.
Sure.
I woke up in a hospital bed, and I was like attached to the bed as well. And no one was in the room. So I like found the button, pressed it. A nurse came in. She started talking to me. I said, "Where's my boyfriend?" She just said he left. He had to run an errand. And long story short, he never came back. I found out later that he checked himself into treatment, which I was like resentful at him. Like, how dare you go get better now?
Yeah.
I was placed on a psych hold. So it was my only time going to a psych hospital. And I had to have my stomach pumped. Like, it was a pretty gnarly experience. What happened was, like, at the end of the 72 hours, they asked me, like, okay, well, like, do you have someone to pick you up? And I just broke down. I was like, no. Like, this is where my life had gotten to, that, like, my friends didn't really want to hang out with me anymore either, because they didn't like him. They didn't like the relationship. I didn't want to call any of them and tell them what happened. At this period and point, my dad and I were not speaking. During that time when I moved out at 18, I was really angry with him for like kind of allowing this to happen.
Sure.
And we didn't speak from the time I was like 18 until I was about 25, all out of resentment. So, you know, my mom's gone. I don't know where my brother is. He's either using in prison or in rehab, but I don't know. And I'm angry with my dad, haven't spoke to him in years. And my friends are like, I'm too embarrassed to call them really and tell them what happened. So I just told them like, no, I don't have anywhere to go and I need help. Right. And they're like, well, there is like this like extended program you can go to, and it focuses on like addiction. And I was like, no. I'm not a drug addict.
Yeah.
I have emotional problems. And they were like, okay, well, we can work on that.
And both things are true, probably. You know?
Right. So like I was telling my friend earlier, like this was my only treatment stint that I did. I went for 2 weeks. It was like a county funded place. I spent my entire time in there making sure that everybody, the other clients, the group facilitators, the counselors knew that I was not a drug addict. Like, right? Like I made sure to make that very clear.
Yeah.
I was depressed, I had anxiety, and I needed help to process like my trauma, right? But when they would go to outside meetings, I was like, oh yeah, I'll go. Like I'm a supporter, I'm an ally.
Yeah.
I'll go. I've been to meetings before. I'd love to come with you. And it's funny, like that was my like first few times going to meetings, but it was like I didn't raise my hand, I didn't identify, I was just there to listen. I got out of that treatment stint. I ended up calling my dad during those 2 weeks with a counselor and connecting with him, telling him what was going on. And he let me come stay on his couch. And I just kind of tried to figure out what I was going to do. There was someone who needed like a personal assistant. And I had done a lot of like babysitting and nannying. I had worked with kids prior to like my addiction going off the rails. And so I had a lot of connections through that, and someone needed some help. So I was staying on my dad's couch. I started working for this woman. She was like this mom in Agora Hills who got a lot of alimony every month. And after 2 weeks of working with her, she was like, do you smoke pot? And I was like, yeah. So like, who cares that I just went to treatment and like was 5150'd, right? So after her kids would go to bed, we'd start smoking pot together. And then she went into telling me about her past addiction issues. And I was like, oh, okay. So like here I am yet again in a position to be like helping take care of somebody else and their family.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, like I'd say it was probably like a month into that. After she had told me she used to have a problem with Adderall, and that's what she went to treatment for years and years ago. She's like, you know, I do have this other thing too. And I was like, okay. And she's like, you know, all that anxiety and stuff you talk about, like when I use this, like it's just gone. And like my reaction was just like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
There was no thought. You tell me you're going to take away my anxiety or take away my pain.
I'm in.
At this point, there is no thought before the decision at all. And that's when I started using meth.
Whoa.
Yeah. But I called it speed because that's what she called it.
Yeah.
Because she was a bougie Agora Hills single mom.
Yeah.
And it sounds better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I justified a little bit of it through that too. Like, oh, but it's like fancy meth.
Yeah.
That's actually what I did with
real
heroin.
crystally.
It's speed.
Yeah.
We call it speed here.
Yeah.
You know?
I used to call heroin by its actual chemical name, diacectamorphine. I'm on diacectamorphine.
That's hilarious.
It's like morphine, you know, the little blue pill. No, it's not the beige colored substance. No. This is diacectamorphine.
Not the tar.
Yeah.
This is chemical shit.
But that's how quick it was. Like, I never thought I would like use something like that. I really didn't, you know, but it was just someone tells me I have something that can help you and take this away. And I just said, let's go.
Let's do it.
That's it.
It's interesting you say that because I don't think when we're growing up, we never think that we're going to use this or this or this. Like when I was in high school, people were smoking weed. And I smoked a little weed. I drank. I remember the first time I was ever around cocaine, I was like, oh my God, they're doing cocaine in the back room? It's terrible. We need to leave here.
Right.
They're not good people.
Right.
And then before you know it, I'm doing cocaine. I'm like, well, at least it's not heroin, or at least it's not meth. I'll never do meth.
Right.
And then before you know it, it's like, well, meth is better than cocaine. It's cheaper. I mean, what are you talking about? This isn't that bad. And it's like what you said in one of those episodes. There's 99 things that I won't do for drugs. And then after a year, there's 60 things I won't do for drugs. And at the end, there's like 3 things that I won't do for drugs.
Yeah.
That's why I say, yeah.
And if I didn't stop, there might have been 0 things that I would not do for drugs.
Trust
It
me.
seems like when you're involved in this realm that you guys were, it's like the goalpost is real easy to move.
Oh, yeah.
And all the time,
Well,
like you
that's-
just fucking, let's just move it right back, you know?
Well, I was just thinking as you were saying that, like I relate to that. And then it's funny because it's like, okay, cocaine, right? Yeah, I'm never going to do cocaine. But then the first time I did cocaine, what happened immediately? I need more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every single thing, the alcohol, the marijuana, the benzos, the cocaine, the hallucinogens, whether it was mushrooms, acid, like Molly, doesn't matter what it was. And then the meth. As soon as the very first time, my next thought immediately always was more.
Yeah.
I don't
Right?
want this to end.
Correct.
I don't want it
Yeah.
to stop.
I don't want this to end. And then what eventually happens is I'm always chasing that first initial experience.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
And that's how we get to the point where our tolerance grows and grows because we have to do more and more and more, right? Because we're chasing that first experience, that first warm, fuzzy blanket,
Yeah.
right?
The fuzziest of the fuzzy.
Yeah.
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 So then you're
Oh, so then I'm actively using meth.
using meth for how long was that?
It was about 8 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was, for a part of it, I was still living on my dad's couch. And I would go back to his place. He'd go to sleep. And I would just stay up and watch Law and Order all night.
Boom, boom.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
song. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to trigger you.
No, it doesn't.
But it just ran through
It
my
actually
head. I was
doesn't. But yeah. I would literally just watch Law and Order till like 5 a.m. And then I would like take a Xanax or even an Ambien to get a couple hours of sleep. Then I'd wake up, smoke some pot, then smoke some meth and go on throughout the day. And I did that for a while, just like that. And I was still working for this woman and things started to get weird as well. She had this boyfriend. My brother always brings this up. At one point, I remember like getting a call from my brother, and he's like, and I hadn't talked to him in so long, and he's like, "Hey, so Dad is telling me that you don't sleep really. Like, how's that meth?" And I was like, "Fuck you," and just hung up immediately because I was like, "How dare you?
dare you?
Yeah.
You call me out right now.
Yeah.
Right. But like, here's the thing is like a few weeks after that, my brother and my dad got a weird phone call from me that I don't remember making to them about how I was at this woman's house and her boyfriend was hiding in the bushes with 2 swords.
Whoa.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like some weird meth stuff.
Yeah.
Looking for a carburetor.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 swords.
2 swords in the bushes.
Yeah.
You telling me that it's not surprising.
Right.
That seemed like your everyday meth.
So it went from like, yeah, I'm going to do this to take away my anxiety to like, this dude's outside with swords.
Yeah.
And we're calling the police to say this guy is in the bushes with 2 swords. And they're like, what do you mean swords? Do you mean knives? We're like, no, swords.
He's a ninja.
And he really was too. This wasn't made up. But like these were the people I was around at this point, you know? And so like that guy got arrested. He got locked up for a while. He had some prior stuff going on. So then she and I, it was just us against the world. She liked to go to stores while she was high. I knew she shoplifted all the time. And I was like, cool, that's not my thing. Until like the one day I'm like literally coming to sitting on top of a cop car. And I'm like, what is happening? And I'm sitting in front of a Kohl's department store. And I'm like, sir? And one of the cops looks at me. I was like, I think I need some help. And he laughed. And he was like, yeah. And so like what had happened is we got arrested because we were caught by loss prevention, shoplifting. You know, and they let you, the way loss prevention does it is they let you like finish and they catch you in the parking lot, right? Mind you, this was my 2nd arrest that week.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And I had never been arrested, right? Like I grew up in this small town. I was like the good kid in high school. Everybody knew who I was. I was like in the little local newspapers. Shout out to the Acorn for like my sports, right?
Hey.
And then like I'm being arrested twice in 1 week, all related to my meth use. You know? So that was when I kind of started to like wake up a little bit to like what was happening around me. Part of it was because I'm really blessed, and I know this to this day. I have a group of friends that I've known since I was super young. There's like 3 of them I've known since I was in elementary school, and then a larger group of them that I've known since like middle school and high school. And those were the friends that like didn't want to come around when I was with that boyfriend, things like that, right? Actually, when I did that 2-week treatment stint and like reconnected with my dad, he reached out to some of my friends. Like they came to visit me, you know, and they were just like, we're really glad you're doing this. And again, during the period that I was not a drug addict, it was just the emotional issues, right? So when these arrests happen, you know, what followed that was things like hospital trips because I couldn't tell if I was having a panic attack or if I took too many drugs. Like I got arrested twice. I didn't stop using. I didn't stop drinking, right? And like now it was just that I was trying to figure out how to do it calmer and better, more responsibly. So I'm going to stay home now.
Yeah.
And use my drugs.
Yeah.
So that's when stuff started to happen, like where you're like in your room, you don't turn lights on, you only light candles. And next thing you know, you're like carpet farming, like you're talking about,
or chasing
checking out the windows at 4 a.m. Like, why did that truck just drive by? Now I'm in this because I'm not going to leave my home. Right. And so I'm just like deep in it. And one night I called one of my friends he was an EMT, and I was pretty out of it, pretty loaded. And I called him with the intention to be like, hey, I think I took too many sleeping pills. I'm not trying to like overdose like what happened a couple months ago. I'm not trying to do that. Can I go to sleep and will I be okay? Or should I go to the hospital? And he was like, wait, what's going on? Right. And it's like, I think this was probably a cry for help, really. And he then passed the phone to my best friend. I had no idea he was with her. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, right. So now she's talking to me. What I know now, because they told me later, is they were just trying to keep me on the phone. And then as I'm on the phone with them, like 10 minutes into it, there's a knock at my door and there's paramedics there. So they take me to the hospital. I got my stomach pumped again. That night was in the hospital. I had like this weird out of body experience of coming down where like, it's something I'll never forget. I don't ever want to feel like that again. I like remember like almost seeing my body like outside of myself, like crawling, and like it was just unreal, right? The next morning when they released me, I didn't want to call my friends. I was too embarrassed. So I took like a taxi home. There were no Ubers yet. Because, I got sober in 2014. We didn't have Ubers yet.
Yeah.
And
Getting
I
close.
took a taxi home and just got in bed and went to sleep. And the next thing that happened is there was a knock on my apartment door. At this point, I had my own apartment. Well, I lived with a girl who, like a random girl I met on Craigslist. But, right? Because that's
normal.
what you do when you're like using drugs.
Yeah.
It's totally safe
That's
and
normal.
fine.
Yeah.
But it was better than my dad's couch at the time.
Yeah.
Or my ex-boyfriend's living room.
Yeah.
And so there was a knock on the door. She comes to my door. She's like, there's some people here to see you. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, I just got back from the hospital. I'm trying to sleep. And it was 4 of my best friends. And so my best friend, her name's Sarah, she walked in first. And she's like, we just want to talk to you. And I was like, this is not a good time. I haven't slept. They're like, no, we're going to talk now.
Yeah.
They came into my bedroom. They sat on the floor. I got back in my bed and like just kind of sat up. And here's the thing that they said to me that day. The only thing they asked me is, first, before asking me a question, they said, we're just here to tell you that we love you. Right? And I talked about how like my whole life, I was just seeking to feel loved. And I was so broken down in this moment. And like I had 4 people that I had known at this stage of my life for 15, 20 years. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not related to them by blood. They're just like, they have been riders. They have watched everything I went through in middle school, high school, living on my own, trying to navigate life like as a teenager in my early 20s. And they were just there to tell me they loved me. That's you know? Awesome. And that was like the beginning to me really waking up. And they also told me, we had this one friend who was sober, and they told me he was going to come into town to take me to a meeting. And I was like, I don't need to do that. Like, I get it. The meth was bad. Like, I'm going to stop. You know, I was not very nice to them at first. I was kind of like in that feeling of like we talked about of like
defensive.
Yeah, and I was defensive, and I was like, you guys haven't had to live the life I've lived.
Yeah.
Right? But their response was so gentle and so kind. They were like, we know.
Yeah. We were
We
there.
know that.
Can't really say nothing to that.
And
Yeah.
all they did was like say like, but Jenna, like, this isn't you. Like through all of that, like you have been the one that like you're the glue in you're the glue in the friend group. You're the glue in any group you put yourself in. You're the light in these groups, and you have not been light for years. And we want to help you, you know? So that night I went to my first meeting with like the intention of like, I'm here to attend. But what I'll tell you is that that's when I stopped using meth. I never used meth again after that. That was in March of 2014. And again, my sobriety date is not till May, right? I did not think that I needed to stop using Klonopin because I was prescribed them.
Yeah.
I also thought that drinking was fine
Yeah.
because I wasn't an alcoholic.
Yeah.
The minor meth phase was pretty bad though, right?
Yeah.
Like this was my narrative, and I would share about this in meetings.
Right.
I also was in these meetings, like I took these meetings like emotionally hostage. I would just cry all over the meetings. I had no control over everything that was going on in me. When people would raise their hands to introduce themselves, I would say, hi, I'm Jenna and I'm human. Yeah. Because I was like, no, you're not going to label me.
Right.
You don't get to tell me what I am. You don't know me, right? It was like back to that,
Yeah.
right? I would sit on the floor in meetings, not in the chair, because I felt like it made me feel more grounded. And maybe it did. Maybe that's what I needed. But I also just think I wanted to do anything to separate myself from you.
Yeah.
I did not want to identify with you.
I'm going to be different.
I'm going to be different. I'm unique. You haven't lived my life. You don't know what this feels like. Like that was my narrative. And I was so stuck in it. And the reality is like, that's the only narrative I knew.
Yeah.
At this point, I was 27.
Yeah.
For 27 years, that's the only reality I knew.
Right.
Is that you don't understand.
Right.
You don't feel this way. You haven't lived my life.
Right.
So when I got to AA, of course, that was still the same narrative. Why would I have a different one? You know? And so I went to meetings for like the next 3 months, 4 months. I asked someone to sponsor me that I did relate to. I really liked her. But I wasn't fully honest. Like I even would still smoke pot. I remember I have this one friend who would give me rides because I didn't have a car at this point. during that meth usage. My car got towed the first arrest. I only had a little bit of money, and my choices was to either spend the money to go get my car out of the impound or what.
Buy more meth.
That's
let's
right.
go
So
get
I
some
just
drugs.
was like, fuck the car.
Fuck
Who
the
needs a
car.
car, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't have a car, so I would get rides from people from AA, and people were so gracious. You know, and I remember this one guy like bringing me back to my place and walking in. He's like, it smells like pot in here. Right. And I was like, yeah, my roommate smokes pot, you know, but it's like he knew.
Yeah.
He knew I was high in the meetings. But what's so cool is like he'd still pick me up.
Yeah.
And there was something in me that also kept asking people to take me to meetings, even though I was getting high still.
Right.
You know, that's why, like, I know, like, when I speak in meetings today, you know, it's like common to like welcome the newcomer, congrats on the chips, da 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 da. And I always say, and welcome the people who are sitting here loaded,
Yeah.
Right.
because like that was my experience.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, like I needed to keep going to meetings for a while. And the reality is that what happened was like in May, it was Memorial Day in 2014. My friends, my normie friends, right, the ones who like essentially had an intervention with me, they were all at barbecues, parties. People, I didn't really know too many people that were sober yet because I was too scared to get too close to them, and I was alone. But it was like a holiday, and I wanted to be a part of something, and I wasn't, and I was angry. I happened to be doing step work, even though I was high, and I just decided like, fuck it, I'm gonna get blasted, right? Because I was hurting, right? Like. I was in pain. So like my only solution is to like turn to substances.
That's all you knew.
That's all I knew. My roommate, my Craigslist roommate was out of town, but I knew where she kept all her cocaine. So I went, used all of that. I drank all of her beer and vodka in the fridge. I crushed up a bunch of Seroquel. I think I even crushed up like weight loss pills. Like I was
right.
like, we're going to do anything that will make me feel anything. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't care. And, but here's what happened. I did all that. And I didn't feel any different. And so I had been going to meetings and hearing enough things in meetings that I realized like my solution was no longer a solution. Right? And I like had all this stuff playing in the back of my head. And so I picked up the phone and I called the woman who was my sponsor and I said, hey, here's what just happened. And I think I actually believe that I'm an alcoholic. And she was just like, wow, okay. And she was like, do you need to go to the hospital because of how much? I like told her everything. I said, no. Like I really felt nothing. Like nothing changed, you know? And she's like, then what I want you to do is go pour yourself a tall glass of water, lock the door, and I'll be there at 6:30 in the morning. And she picked me up and we went to a 7 a.m. meeting, and that was May 26, 2014. And I worked all 12 steps in 30 days because I was so fucking desperate at this point. I had no job anymore. I had 2 legal cases going on because of those arrests. And I was so broken down. I like truly believed that, you know, like it talks in the book about how there's like this like jumping off point where like I'm either going to die an alcoholic death or I'm going to like go on to try something else. And that's exactly where I was.
Yeah.
You know, that's exactly where I was. And I was in this complete state of surrender. And I was just like, you tell me how to live life.
Right.
I tried this for months, even coming to these meetings. But the reality is I was still in control.
Yeah.
I was still making the decisions. I was not taking any suggestions from anyone around me. And so I was like, this is the one thing I haven't done. You know? And so I worked my steps. During that time, I also got really sick. Now that I was completely rid of any substances in my body, I was around like 40, 45 days. I started to have these gnarly cramps. And I thought that it was like part of like detoxing for benzos. And I was ignoring it for a while until I like passed out one day and then like in a grocery store and got taken to the hospital. It turned out I had like massive gallstones like pouring out of my gallbladder.
Oh.
And they had asked me, have you had a rapid weight loss in the last year? And I was like, yeah, I have. I was using a lot of methamphetamine. And they were like, yeah, we need to like remove this immediately because it's going to explode. So they just like rolled me into surgery. I had like 45 days sober. Then when I came out of surgery, they're like, hey, so you also have pancreatitis. And here I was thinking that like I was not an alcoholic. It was just a minor meth phase.
Yeah.
I was in there for 3 weeks because until my liver could stabilize. And this was 45, now 50 something days into sobriety, right? And they had told me had you been drinking the last 2 months, I don't know if you would have made it, And that was wild. I made some amends while in the hospital because I had people come visit me.
Yeah.
One of the amends I made was to my dad while in the hospital. And when I got out of there, I had to just, what I started doing is I looked for a job that was a get well job that wasn't emotionally involved. Because like I said, I had worked with kids prior, but I was very invested in it. And I knew that I couldn't do that right now. I needed to fully focus on just getting well. And I didn't care what the job was. I just needed a paycheck. So I started working at this tanning salon that was nearby that I could walk to. Which was funny because in the beginning of my sobriety, when my sponsor told me, because I would make excuses, well, I don't drive, I can't get to a meeting, she told me you could take the bus. And I was like, excuse me, I'm not taking the bus.
Yeah.
And she put me in my place of who do you think you are?
Yeah.
You were using meth, picking up this woman's children
Yeah.
while working with her and using with her. And you think you can't take the fucking bus?
Yeah.
Right.
And so I just really humbled myself at this point, right? And so I'd take the bus places, I'd walk. And then it came down to one of the cases, I'm dealing with these cases. I'm now on steps 10, 11, and 12. I had already gone through my 9th step and I had made a decision that even with the court cases, I was going to be completely honest, and whatever the consequences were, I was going to take them because that was part of my 9th step, right?
Yeah.
And so they did sentence me to some jail time. And they were like, you can do this basically anytime in the next 6 months. And I talked with my sponsor afterwards. And I was, then I called the public defender and I was like, all right, I'll remand myself in a week. And so I went to jail in sobriety. And I just really felt like I wanted to do anything I could to clean up my side of the street because I was so willing to do the work.
Yeah.
Because all I wanted was to feel better.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted. And I saw all these people around me who apparently were doing this because I'm following their suggestions, and they were happy, they were smiling, they had beautiful lives. And to me, a beautiful life wasn't about the house, the car, the man. It was about the smile on their face, the authentic energy I felt when I was around them, and the joy that they exuded. That was what I was chasing.
Yeah.
That was what was important to me, And so, I did anything these women or men with time would suggest. And so it was okay, you're going to go to jail. So I went to jail. It was uncomfortable. It wasn't great. I don't ever want to go back there. They called me Barbie.
Yeah.
And, they were made fun of me in there. They're like, let me guess, you're from Westlake Village and you got a DUI. I was like, first of all, I'm from Agora Hills. And it was commercial burglary. So I think I got a little cred for that. That I was like, look, I'm kind of cool.
You certified.
Yeah. So yeah, I got through that. I came out. I didn't know where I was going to live. I had packed up my apartment before going in, and I left a duffel bag with my sponsor, and she's like, "We'll figure it out." I was like, "Okay," So when I got out, that friend who took me to my first AA meeting, his mom is sober. She called me because he had told her, and she said, so where are you going to live? I said, I don't know. And she had 35 years sober. And she's like, well, I'll give you 30 days. You can come stay in our guest room while you figure this out. And there was this woman with 35 years of sobriety. So I stayed with her, went to meetings, started getting little odds and ends jobs. I remember actually, because I remanded myself on September 6, 2014, and I did about 45 days. So now it's October. I remember I went and worked at a pumpkin patch
Yeah.
for the
Right.
season.
Let's go.
Right? And it was I didn't care. Anything to be of service and get a paycheck too. At this point, I was so humbled that I would do anything. I would have worked at McDonald's if you told me to.
Yeah.
Right? And so I just started doing little things like this. That's when then I got the tanning salon job and would walk to work and stuff. Then I moved in with another girl who was sober. And I just kept doing the work. I got super involved in AA. I started sponsoring around, I had 6 months sober. And I got super involved. And when I hit a year sober, I got a job as a tech working in treatment. And like my life just really continued to grow from there, you know?
And here you are.
And here I am.
You were in San Antonio wearing orange shit.
I was in San Antonio wearing orange shit and like representing the treatment center that I work for. And I'm so proud.
With a guy that was trying to look like fucking Lloyd Christmas.
Dude,
Dumb and Dumber.
that's what I told him.
Yeah.
Remember I said, what is this, Harry and Lloyd?
I thought you.
I mean,
okay.
don't fucking. You were wearing an orange
okay, first
suit.
off,
You looked great.
you know what?
We looked great
Let me get on
together.
the defensive
and we
real
looked
quick.
great together.
Well, we did break Facebook a little bit.
Yeah,
you know, I swear it was like glitching for like 3 minutes.
asking if this was my new boyfriend.
Can
And was
I-
like, slow it down.
Can I be
Slow down. We just
perfectly
met.
honest here?
We just
Yeah.
met, and this is crazy.
He took a
Call me
picture
maybe.
of this dude took a picture of himself alone wearing that suit, and I was like, man. Jay Klein thinks that shit looks cool. I don't know what the fuck is going on there. And then I was gonna give you some shit, but then
everyone did.
the picture with you. You were wearing orange shit,
Yeah.
and I saw people in the background
Yeah, it
wearing
was an orange
I was
party.
like, okay,
Makes sense.
he's not fucking out of his mind.
Let me tell you
this
something.
is great.
Yeah.
I was so
it wasn't like he
excited
just
about that.
randomly was like, I'm going to wear an orange
Yeah,
suit.
I thought he
Yeah.
would. If
Not
was
that
a-
I was
But
seeing
knowing
it.
Jay Klein, it wouldn't
He would.
surprise me.
Yeah.
I'm
that's
on,
okay.
you know,
He
when
wants
I
to
show
stand
up,
out.
I'm going to show up on 10, not
Stand
9.
out.
Yeah, I mean,
Period.
10
I'm
plus.
giving you shit, but says the guy with the yellow shirt with the yellow shoes.
Well, you
And
look
the yellow
great. You look like a
hat.
taxi.
Yeah,
you look
and
like a bumblebee.
and
Yellow jacket.
and this
Look
guy
like yellow.
going on.
But hey, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I don't know where I was going with this.
Yeah, I forgot.
Who you know can pull off an orange suit?
I thought you looked hot.
I think we could do it.
A lot of people
I think
did.
we could do it.
And then a lot of people did. Yes,
Yeah.
I trust me. My inbox is full of Jim
If I
Carrey
was-
memes and Dumb and Dumber memes. And
If I was a chick there in early sobriety, especially, I'd be like, "What's
what
up,
is
dog?
wrong with you?
What's up?
And I would have respectfully declined
Yeah.
based on
I'll be your
principle.
sponsor." Breaking
So-
all the rules.
Just jokes, y'all. But yeah, no, that was one of the greatest experiences. And honestly, I'm gonna be real, and I'm not just saying this. I met a lot of great people there. I got to be in touch with a lot of great companies. My first time ever in a professional recovery conference, which is crazy in itself that I was there.
Isn't that cool?
Bro.
Right? That like we're trusted and we're called professionals.
Yes, because
But we came from like doing all the things that I just mentioned.
2 years ago, I was dead in a shitty motel.
Right.
Now I'm at a resort hotel.
Right. As a
What?
professional in the recovery.
In an
industry.
orange suit, and I give no fucks because I'm gonna walk up in there fly as hell.
Right, right. I remember mentioning this to you before we met is that like one, for me, being a mother and being a sober, present mother has been the most healing without any realization that it was going to bring me healing for all of my own inner child stuff
Yeah.
that we talked
Yeah.
about, right?
Yeah, cats in the cradle stuff.
Right.
Like,
and
kinda.
so being able to show up and see the world through their eyes and feel the world through their hearts is the most incredible experience.
Yeah.
You know? And these kids are my entire world. You know, like if you know me outside of here, like you know that, you know. Everything I do is for them. Even working, right? Yes, I'm so passionate about helping others and saving others and creating space for others and their families to get well, right? Because I'm really passionate about not just the individual, but the family system. Like my kids know this. Like my kids came with me to take my 10-year cake, right?
That's awesome.
And while we were driving there, my son, he's 8 now, and he knows I go to meetings, and he's always known that. I don't think he's like always known what it means. And so he was like, I don't understand. It's not your birthday. And I said, well, you know how mommy doesn't drink like alcohol, like beer and stuff. He said, yeah. I said, well, so it's been 10 years since I've drank that. And he said, well, why don't you drink it anymore? And I said, because when mommy drinks that, she gets really angry and really sad. Right. And so I've like been able to talk to him at an age appropriate level. And, I want to be that for them. I don't want to hide them. I don't want to shield them from the reality of the world.
Yep.
And in that, it's like I also show them like overcoming adversity, right? Just like they know that it's just me and them, like in our household. They know that I work hard, and I make it clear to them that I also work hard so that I can build a life for them,
Yeah.
right? And if you ask my kids, what does your mommy do for work? They'll tell you, my mommy helps people. And like that,
That's beautiful.
to
That's
me,
awesome.
like is everything.
That's cool.
You know, that's more than I could have ever imagined having for my life.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, being a parent is everything, and it's healed so much in me. It's been what's helped me have that compassion, whether it's for my father or for my mother, who's like, you know, thank you for doing that moment of silence before.
Yeah.
You know, because in moments like that, like one of the biggest people I think of is my mother, you know, and I have a lot of compassion for her today, where before I only had resentment, I only had anger.
Yeah.
And the thing is the only person that was hurting was me.
Yeah.
Right.
To walk
for sure.
around with that, right? Where today I can have compassion for her and understand that, you know, she's unwell and she doesn't have the tools or is unwilling to be honest enough with herself to pick the tools up. But I can have compassion,
Yeah.
Sure.
you know?
Yeah, I really wanted to make it a point to bring that into this forum because we do that before every episode. And if you go to meetings, that's sometimes what is done in oftentimes in meetings. Not every meeting, but I think it should be. Must we never forget?
Yeah.
Must we always remember? And must we always show grace, love, compassion, empathy at all times? So those are big values and principles I really adopt and live by.
Yeah, absolutely. It's super important.
So what do you do for fun now?
I take weird pictures with my friend Rachel.
Yeah.
We like to go out to eat.
Yeah.
You know, I live in California. I'm a big beach girl.
Yeah.
Like you can find me at the beach anytime I'm not at work. I love to hike. I love to do anything with my kids. All of those things I just mentioned. If that means like rollerblading in the parking lot, like we're doing it.
You're a beach lady?
I am.
Crazy beach lady?
Let's not talk about, I'm not crazy.
Yeah, I don't believe you.
Even though I did refer to myself as Tan Mom, remember?
Yes. Yes. Tan Mom
I was like, do I
2.0.
look like Tan Mom in those pictures?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I mean, that group of friends that I talked about, like I am still super close with them today.
Yeah.
I spend time with them. I am super involved, like in sponsoring and AA. And that's fun to me. Like
Yeah.
fellowshipping is fun,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Going out to dinner with, whether it's people from AA or friends outside, like fellowshipping anywhere,
Love it.
like that's what I do for fun is
Love
I
it.
connect.
Yeah.
I just want to connect. I want to keep things light. Like we've talked about that a lot, right? Where I'm like, it's so important to me to not take myself so seriously
Yeah.
and really just enjoy the simplicity of life around me, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's in laughter, sometimes that's in the sun and in the waves, in the trees. And like that's where I want to be. That's
Yeah.
the vibration I'm at today.
Yeah.
Well,
That's really good.
I think that's why you fit in pretty good here because we're talking about serious shit, but we try to
Light.
talk about carpet farming
That's
and
right.
Mike plugging meth in his butthole
Right.
and still hadn't told me if he liked it or not. I mean, how many knuckles did you put it in with? Was it to the bottom one or
Maybe somebody else helped me put it in.
okay? All right. Well, did they put it in with their whole hand? And you're
I
like,
just talked to Destiny about this today. Like, I didn't have a great experience with it because I pooped it out. So I didn't get to. I'll say that here. I went to the bathroom and I didn't get to feel it because I pooped all of it out.
I thought you. I
Your
thought
butt plug?
No.
You're saying you pooped a butt plug out.
No.
Oh my goodness.
No, that was a different time. No, I put meth in my butt before.
Oh, your
I boofed
meth.
it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what boofing is.
Yeah.
Please.
Come on now. Yeah, so I didn't get to experience it because I was like, man, I got to shit.
But you were hiding it, right?
In your butt.
Well, I've done that from cops, but
Yeah, of course.
I've tried
You've
it,
tried to shard your ass before?
But then you had to poop.
and the shard came out. So
Man.
Unreal.
hopefully that goes
just
viral.
goes,
Fuck it.
Man.
Yeah. So
See, this is part of what I love, right? Is that like to us, we can talk about this and we're like, yeah.
Yeah.
But then like, so you're a normie and you're
Yeah.
like, you did what?
Yeah.
Right? And
actually, Jay Klein's face is kind of confusing me because you're like, dude, you're disgusting.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm just personally.
I don't think he talks about poop around ladies. I kind of can pick that up from you.
Well,
That's crazy. You're so right.
Jay Klein, everybody poops.
I know, bro, but I just,
right.
I'm not going to accept it.
Okay.
Okay, here's the thing.
It's the
We're going to
gentleman
get real
in
depth, and I don't
Girls
want to make this
don't fart
about
and they
me.
don't poop?
So here's the thing. It takes me, like, we're in a relationship, right? In a serious relationship.
that's what it's
And are we in a relationship now?
No, I'm just
Oh,
speaking in
sorry.
general.
Okay,
Hold
got
on.
it, got it,
Slow
got it,
up.
got it. Okay.
Slow up. Let it materialize.
Slow down.
Sorry, I
slow down.
promises.
ruffled your feathers.
No,
I
it's just
wanna
like
get
here's a vulnerability about me. I actually in relationships, or even if I'm around a female, I will be the most mysterious and secretive person when it comes to going number 2. Like in a relationship, I will fucking
Number
take
2.
a shower
Yeah. I understand.
before this, and I gotta go shower,
I respect that actually.
and then I will actually shower because
Not me, man. I don't respect that shit.
I do.
All right.
I will literally leave the other room so I could go, I will leave the room, and I've done that.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Well,
I
guess
just,
we're all
I
different.
respect that. I totally do.
I'm just
I don't want to know about that, especially in the beginning of a relationship. Like,
right. I don't want to.
Go
I
to the
think-
bathroom across the
I'm just
house.
not
but
a fan of.
I think you need to like learn that shit real early, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You
Yeah,
got to
I
know
mean,
what
I
the
know
not
fuck
everyone
gonna. poops. Listen,
you are
I'm a
dealing
mom.
with.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a mom. I know everyone poops. I can't poop in privacy. If I were to poop, I don't poop.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
That's why the
was almost
cramps
done.
happen once a month.
I got a couple deal breakers, and that's
that's
one
a
of
deal
them.
breaker.
That's one of
Dude,
them.
really?
Yeah,
Really?
dude.
A
I
deal
don't
breaker is shitting.
look.
Wow.
Look. Obviously, I have
You are
some
a
things I need to work through
shallow
still.
man.
Okay. I wasn't traumatized. There was no trauma from poop. There was no trauma. I
even
swear.
say it.
Saying the word.
I don't.
Doo doo.
Yeah.
Caca.
Caca.
Doody.
I'm just not a fan, dude.
I think
I
it's
don't
okay.
like. I don't like that part of the body. I don't know. It's just not. I mean,
I
don't
love
like
that part of the body.
That part of the body.
I actually
he
love that
says.
part of the body.
That's okay.
I'm not.
That's okay.
Just.
I love the balloon knot.
It's getting uncomfortable.
Yeah.
This is where I like to take
Here
it to
comes
the
the
end. Let's
anxiety.
keep going.
Let's.
There's no anxiety.
I told you
It's
what
just-
it's going to be called edging with Jenna.
Okay, so is there anything about the balloon knot that you do like?
I mean, I don't know how explicit we can get, so I'm just gonna no, no. Like what?
Okay.
What good comes from that area? I mean, maybe right
Do
above
you want to
it,
answer this?
but like what? This is crazy right now. This is crazy.
Bro, my mom watches this podcast.
What are you prefacing right now?
That his mom doesn't want to hear us talk
Yeah,
about poop.
yeah.
My
We're
mom calls me
I'm
while
trying
she's
to
shitting.
stop.
balloon knots.
I've been trying to stop this combo for
Okay,
like the
let's
last.
stop it.
Okay.
Stop
We're
it.
just trying to help you here, man. We're trying to
Well,
progress.
Yeah,
listen,
your
if y'all want to
vulnerability.
have a podcast after dark,
Yeah.
podcast confessions. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. HBO, 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Taxi cab confessions.
Do you not remember? All right,
Oh, yeah, I
we're
remember
getting
that
way
one.
off topic. Y'all subscribe, and y'all, we'll have the PPV, not the POV. We'll have the PPV. That means pay per view, not anything else.
No comment.
And y'all can check us out on more explicit related matters that are conductive of a conversation that shouldn't be going on right now because we live in principle. Come on.
And,
Some
Which
women
is
more
one of the
than
principles is honesty.
and
It's fine.
I'll just add one in principle. Everybody poops.
others. Yeah.
So I just think that's amen.
I think it needs
Hallelujah.
to be. Yeah, you need
Hallelujah.
to find that out quick in the relationship.
I mean, yeah,
Big.
at a year.
Okay.
A year?
Let me tell you something.
No.
This is, I have a
Jesus.
thing with a year, right? You talk about getting sober. Let's take this back to recovery.
Okay, yeah.
We talk about getting sober. One of the things is at 55 days sober, I was at a crossroads where I was gonna call my plug. Right? I just wanted to check on him. I just wanted to, like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while type shit, right?
I can save you.
I just want to check on them. That's such a justification.
No, I just want to call him, but hey, I haven't heard from you in a while.
I'm sober, but I'm going to check on my plug.
Well, because here's my thought process. Just in case, I'm not going to get high today.
Right.
But maybe in like 3 weeks or maybe even 3 days, 5 days, I just need to establish some communication so he doesn't think I died or got arrested.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm here. Don't forget me.
Yeah.
Because I haven't forgot you. And so I went to call him and it fucking rang. I was expecting his number to be changed, right? And my sponsor at the time was on the way to the sober house I was living at. And he answered. I was like, fuck. Said, Jake, where you been? I said, dude, I gotta go. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you. And I hung up. And my sponsor came and there's two real quotes that I live by every day. And this one kind of expired after a while. I mean, it's still relevant, but like it was definitely pertinent at the time. He said, Jacob, he said, give yourself, if you just commit to this program for 1 year and commit to this program for 1 year and your life doesn't get drastically better, I will refund you your misery and I will pay for your first drink or drug. I was like, fuck, no one really ever put it that way. Or maybe they did and I just wasn't listening at the time, but that was so simple and so real. And especially at a point where I just overdosed 5 times and died, I was like, well, fuck. Like, what else do I got to lose, right? And then the motto that followed after that, which I live in every day, is trust the process, don't rush the process. Trust the process, man. And I did. So now how does that relate to what we just talked about? It's the 1 year rule. I don't want to know until 1 year. Holla at me then, baby. Let's go.
So
we can go together.
You said you had a dear friend that lives here.
I do.
In Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dear friend, best friend?
Well, her best friend's right here, so.
I knew this was going to come up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's wild too is like being 36 years old, 10 years sober, and like pretty established in my life. Like you don't expect to like at that age and time to like meet someone and then all of a sudden they're like a huge part of your life.
Yeah.
In recovery. And like the idea of that seems like illogical, right? Like, right. Like we can all relate, like, oh, I'm going to go and make a new best friend, right? But it's like, it's just one of those moments, like, I don't know, probably a God shot is what I would call it, is like where like the universe puts something in front of you with so much purpose and so much intention. And like, I can't not see that. And so, I would definitely call her a best friend.
All right.
Yeah.
And what's her name?
Her name is Rachel Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah. Fellow guest of the two addicts and a moron. Come over here, dude. Everybody.
Where do I
Rachel
Elizabeth.
Yay. Second best friend of Rachel.
So we're going
to number one.
We can come back to the poop story here.
We're gonna
because I know you want.
And guess what, everybody? Rachel poops.
I do.
Yeah.
I have IBS. I be shitting.
I do. That's part of our connection.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. All right. Well, IBS
sisters.
Hey. So you wanted to read something and we wanted to end with Rachel on here because you are part of our two addicts world.
Something you posted a picture on Facebook of you and Rachel, and your comment. I'm not gonna do it.
You're gonna fucking
cry.
It's okay.
It was so moving to me because I think this is how every friendship relationship should be. But what you put is it said, women need other women in their life who think they're a big deal. No competition, no jealousy, no backhanded comments, just I love you, I see you, I'm with you. There's no one else like you type of energy. And I think that's something that's so important. And I envy y'all's relationship because that's how all my friendships should be. And that's when I seen that, I didn't know you yet. I knew Rachel. I didn't know you. And I was like, that's fucking beautiful because especially with women and probably guys too, because look, when I first went to meetings, I used to judge everybody that walked through the door, especially guys. Like I will kick his ass. I'll beat the fuck out of him. I'll beat his ass. And someone told me like, when you feel like that, that's yourself. You should go introduce yourself to that person and you'll see what an asshole you are. And I started doing that and I was like, wow, that's a really good guy. Like there's a guy in the gym that drives me crazy. And the other day I finally talked to him, and he was the nicest fucking guy. And I've been making fun of this guy for months. And it's not him, it's my insecurities. He's bigger than me. He's got a yellow Corvette. I mean, I'm like, this fucking guy, all he does is flex in the mirror. And then I asked him a question the other day, and he was the nicest fucking guy that I've talked to in there. I was like, wow, sometimes God really humbles you, and he makes you see, like, you're an asshole. But when I seen that comment, I was like, man, that's how a friendship's supposed to be. So I love y'all for that. That's how a friendship's supposed to be.
Thank you for sharing that.
Too.
You guys are super dope. My God, what a story, and what a kind of, not an ending, but the new beginning to it all, and where you're at right now. It's a wild ride that you had there, kid.
It is a wild ride, and like, you know, through, like I said, a lot of healing. Like, I'm a big advocate for therapy. You know, I think that if you need to do that, you need to do it and not keep those things stuffed in. Like, my sole intention in life today is to hold space for others where they can feel safe and seen and loved, you know? And like, you know, in the 12-step programs, it talks about us applying our principles to all personalities and situations. And so for me, like, I have to live in that, right? So that's, you know, seeing people, loving people, and holding space professionally, personally, with family, with friends, as a mother. And anytime I step outside of that, I'm really uncomfortable.
Right.
You know, and I can't live uncomfortable anymore. I've been uncomfortable in sobriety, and it's not fun, you know, and the only thing that pulled me back out of it, you know, like, I never picked up in these 10 years or anything. The only thing that pulled me out of it was to go back to the really simple things I learned in those really simple tools.
Yeah.
And so, like, the more time I've had, the more simple this has been. And that's why, like, I live by that. Like, I see you, I love you, I'm with you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we say that in sales all the time. When you're not selling, go back to the basics. Just go back to the simple things that you know. And you have a great person to reach out to,
I do.
and vice versa,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Y'all call each other all the time.
We
do.
talk a lot.
Yeah.
We talk a lot, which is really special. I don't have a ton of, especially being a mom and like life gets busy and stuff like that. Like, I have one best friend here in Austin that we've just like, you know, we've been like this for so long, and I don't.
Oh, it's not me.
Yeah. I thought you had 3 of them, but here we are, just dickheads.
All of you. Yeah, all of you.
Whatever, pieces of shit.
But it's really nice to be able to bridge, like you said, like, I kind of, when you're older, I feel like it's a lot more rare to come across someone that you're like, oh my God, I really love you.
Yeah.
Actually, like, I love you so much. And, you know, I meet amazing people all the time, but it's really awesome when you just get someone that, Jenna's like that for everyone though. I feel like I have to fight a lot of people. I'm going to have to start battling people to the death for her love. And like,
I'm ready.
the number one spot.
I'm ready. I'll go to war.
Jenna's just a light. She's a sunshine. Like, she
really is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember what I gave you the first day we met?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like,
so
like, again, like, these were all God shot things.
when we met for the first time, I had just celebrated my 6 years, and I go to LA to do the podcast, and I met Jenna there, and she kind of like adopted. So it's basically a bunch of boys, right?
Yeah.
Jenna's like the only girl and glue of the group because she holds shit down. Okay. So she takes me to her place to get ready for dinner, and we had just met, and she finds her 6-year chip. And I had just celebrated. I just told her that I celebrated my 6 years, and she had just randomly found it. Where did you find it?
It was in a jewelry box because I had just moved. So all my stuff was all over the place, and I was looking for some jewelry. And I opened this box, and I'm like, why is this in here? And I, like, from the very beginning, my sponsor had taught me a tradition that, like, you know, when you take a certain year, then you pass your old chip down to someone with less time than you. And so mind you, like, I had just taken 10 years. So I'm like, why do I have a 6-year chip still? Right. And so I
It was
came
just
out
waiting
and,
for me. So she gave me the chip, and I hadn't gotten mine. It was like perfect.
That's
she
super
hadn't
cool.
picked one up yet.
That's super cool.
And so I don't know. It's like things like that. Like I couldn't have planned that. She couldn't have planned that. Like, those are those moments that just like happen organically. And what I think is important is like to not miss out on those moments and to pay attention to them.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
Because I think those type of things happen in the right situations for, like, with so much purpose. You know.
100%.
Right.
God be showing up.
That's
You gotta
right.
be
Weird
showing
ways
up.
Yeah.
And in sobriety, you can recognize them.
100%.
You know,
I couldn't see
or it
that
might
stuff before.
Pass. What the fuck's this in here for?
Right.
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 Or actually, you wouldn't have one, not in being in
Right.
sobriety.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
And you wouldn't have met Rachel.
Yeah. That's what's so cool too, right? Is like because of our like stories and our challenges, it like brings us to these like beautiful places.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's people you can relate to as well. You know, like people that's never went through addiction, like people at work, whenever they used to tell me, why don't you just stop? Well, it's just not that easy.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I love
And
when
they don't
people say that,
understand, like,
yeah.
you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose your daughter, and you can't stop. And I was like, I don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't know how. And it's crazy for them, you know, because they don't understand it. But somebody that you can talk to that's been there, understands it, has gone through it, and you can bounce ideas off of with no judgment, no hate, just all love, and can call you out on your bullshit from time to time, which is so important.
Yes.
You know, I don't need yes people around me. I need people to tell me what I don't want to hear sometimes
Right.
too.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
I'm sure that's what you guys do for each other.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and somebody that you have the right frame of mind to listen to. It's like you said, when you started getting sober, you were willing to do anything and you would listen to anybody that had some time.
Right.
And I think that's so important,
Yeah.
you know, to be humble.
Yeah.
You know, people at work, new people especially, they say, what advice can you tell me? And I always say, stay grounded and stay humble. Stay grounded and stay humble, because you can make a lot of money. You can hit a lot of different heights. Just remember who you were when you first started. You know, I think that's so important to keep grasp of.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Well, Miss Jenna, how do people find you?
How do people find me?
Your socials, babe.
Your
Tell 'em.
social.
Tell
Social.
them.
Yeah, give me your address. Right now.
My social security number. You can find me on Instagram at Jenna Rose Foster. That would be the best way to find me.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Facebook.
And Facebook, yeah. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn,
Oh,
Threads,
LinkedIn's a big dick maneuver.
TikTok.
Yeah,
but on
that's like the-
TikTok, my name is Spirit Drip.
Whoa.
Drip and stands.
It's very Jenna journey of me, you know?
Release your inhibition.
Well,
That's right.
Yeah.
well, I think we got episode 28. 28 in the bag.
28.
Yeah, number 28. And
Veinte Ocho?
28.
tried.
Awesome.
Why are you making fun?
I'm not.
That's okay.
All right.
I still love you.
Well, I feel like in the middle of a really weird
I like
prison
this.
movie right
Prison?
now.
I like this.
Like I got two addicts. And does he cite me? I'm about to be I'm going to be like Tupac. You got to get yours. I got to get mine.
I'm going to get mine.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys should do this every episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like all of you are a little bit uncomfortable. I feel like you're the least uncomfortable.
I don't
You're
know.
the
Look,
most.
He's got his arm around him.
Cuddle. I feel like you should do this and just get.
Look.
Yeah.
I love it.
Y'all want to make a
never-
human centipede?
I've never
Oh,
felt
no.
more at home. I was thinking of sandwich.
That was a joke. Jenna, for real though.
Yes.
I told you this the other day. I thought I was going to keep it in private, but you're a sun worth of brightness. And it's been an honor to have you here. Thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure to get to spend this last few days with you. I found friends for life.
Yeah.
Like seriously,
Definitely.
literally
Yeah.
friends for life.
Thank you.
No, we're honored that. I mean, you came from fucking California and stopped in here. I know you had other things to do, but none more important than this. You know, I'm kidding. No, it was great. I can't thank you enough for stopping by and giving us your story and sharing it with all of our listeners and people. It means the world to us. Thank you for bringing this lady with you too. She's always welcome. And subscribe, like
Like and
comment.
subscribe to the channel.
listen to Rachel Elizabeth, everybody. That's
right.
Rachel has a podcast too to subscribe to.
Yes, Against All Odds pod on all platforms.
Yes, go there, do
Yeah,
it.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and no, it's very cool. So, with that being said, episode 28, we are out of this mother.
Deuces.
Yay!